And Chief Mike became the chief of Rhinelanders Police Department in 2007. And I retired about a year later as the director of the Rhinelander District Library, so it was a great pleasure to be able to work with him for that year before I retired for the first time. And then I flunked retirement, and now I'm here. So I'm really glad that we got to know each other. It's been fun working with Mike again in preparation for this event and talking about creating training partnerships and identifying potential audiences. One of the things that's impressed me the most about Mike over the years as a Rhinelander resident is his dedication to community involvement as a powerful and efficient and practical tool for creating better understanding of what he and his officers do on a daily basis. And libraries do that too. He's reached out to potential community partners in a number of innovative programs, and he's also been demonstrating throughout our community that he's an excellent teacher as well as a law enforcement. So please welcome Chief Mike. Okay.
Well, very nice to meet everyone. And thankfully, with the exception of, did you say Loyal?
Loyal.
Okay. With the exception of Loyal, I know the chiefs or sheriffs have just about everybody in the room. So I can pretty much speak on behalf of them. They would love to have good partnerships with you guys. If they don't already come out and teach at the libraries or have officers coming to the library on a regular basis to do a community program, I guarantee you every one of them would like that. We've really, I think all of the chiefs in the area in the Northwoods really embrace the opportunity to work with our public libraries and through our public libraries to be able to do training programs. I'd say I typically do, in our department, we do at least 50 to 60 presentations a year. Many of them in schools, but just about anybody who calls and asks for them. And when we first started talking about creating this presentation, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but we started talking about a neat idea of doing a monthly training program, at the library. Some of the ideas, we'll show you some of the ideas of some of the training programs that you could possibly come up with. But you look at it, you guys serve kids, you guys serve young adults, and all the way through senior citizens. So there are multitudes of ways that you could create monthly programs that would be able to bring people in your doors, and not only would they be able to learn items that are going on with local representation, either from the government, from private enterprise, from civic groups, but then you could also have books ready and prepared, or to be able to tag out and borrow until they could actually research the topic more. So, my name is Mike Steffes. I am from the Rhinelander Police Department. I began my career with the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Department. As a county sheriff's deputy, I was a part-time deputy, but what I felt that there was a gap between what law enforcement was providing and the community partnerships that I really wanted to embrace. So I went from there to the City of Beaver Dam Police Department. I was there for 13 years. One of the first things I did in the Beaver Dam Police Department is I wanted to connect to the youth. And I thought, what a great way. Kids don't want to come up and just talk to police officers. I was already asked today about wearing a uniform. When I'm not in uniform, I'm like, well, I don't want to scare everybody out of here and have you guys all run. So what I did is I began our canine program. It was the city's first police canine handler in Beaver Dam. And that gave me an opportunity to go into the schools and meet with kids. Kids don't like coming up to police officers, but when they have a dog with them, they love running up and swarming a dog. So it was a great opportunity for me, and myself and the dog, we did over 250 presentations just in the city. Working with the kids, working with the library in Beaver Dam, and working with everybody who was willing to actually have us come and talk to them. And that kind of has blossomed into my real philosophy of being able to be there for the community and having that strong partnership, which is why I drove down here today to meet all of you folks. I guarantee your departments want the same thing, and they're happy to be there for you. So what we're going to give you today is some tools and opportunities maybe to have some of those discussions. We'll talk first about how do we recognize what gaps we have in our community, that's what we'll go here, and how do we find a partnership that can actually fulfill that gap and make sure that we actually have the partnership and the people who can actually help those citizens out. And then once we discover what those training gaps are, who do we use and how do we create a good presentation? So I'm going to show you a few different, just 5 to 7 clips of a few different presentations that I've given, so that you can kind of get a feel for how we were able to fill that gap when we discovered that there was an issue going on in our community. And finally, we'll talk about some key points to successful presentations, and then we will finish up by questions and answers, and hopefully you guys will have a lot of those. So starting out, how do we do a needs assessment? Well, the big thing when we try to define what kind of training needs there might be, or what kind of partnerships you want to establish is, the first thing, just read the local newspaper, and you start realizing what's going on. For example, in the city of Rhinelander, when we started our streetscape project, our whole downtown is getting ripped up, and they started doing these streetscape project meetings. And I know Virginia, our library director, was very concerned about how are the patrons going to know even how to get into our parking lot, which, to be honest with you, is quite a hassle right now. I think you guys can attest to that. So I feel like we missed an opportunity to engage the patrons of the library and have police officers and public works representatives come to the library and have some weekly meetings where we could have informational sessions where they'd be able to come in and say, okay, next week when the project goes and this entrance gets closed, how do we do this? We were putting stuff out on the websites and everything else, but we all know nothing beats one-on-one engagement. And also for the elderly, which is what I see as the biggest issue as far as they don't get the internet, or they don't always get the internet, all of them, not everybody is elderly. A lot of them don't read the newspaper, so all of a sudden now things change and they don't quite know how to get to the library. Had we reached out to them, had some meetings, perhaps they would have known in advance, here's the way that the library is going to flow, here's how I'm going to get in, get out of the library, and hopefully that would have helped the patronage so that people would go, well, I don't know how to get there, so I'm just not going to go. I'm just not going to go to the library during these few months or something like that. What do we do once we recognize those gaps? The first thing is figure out what age groups are we looking at, because we need to know who do we want to come in to talk to the age groups. If we're looking at having somebody come in to talk to 15 and 16-year-olds about getting bullied, I'm probably going to send a much different police officer than somebody who's going to be talking to somebody who's 70 years old trying to figure out how to navigate into a library parking lot. The 15-year-olds are going to look at somebody who's a 45-year-old, 20-year veteran of the police department walking in. They're going to say, well, what do you know about getting bullied? Back then you didn't understand social media. So we want to make sure we kind of match that. And so for us, we always look at what age groups are affected and who's going to be best to represent those age groups. And what are our demographics? And finally, what kind of media attention has been out there on the topic? We need to know, is the media covering this accurately? Is there any issues that the media is not covering, any gaps in their coverage that we might be able to use to fill those gaps also? And finally, who has the right expertise in your community? For example, when we get into, we'll talk a little bit about bullying presentations that we've come up with, we reach out to the Human Service Center, because to say, okay, so we as police officers totally understand the full concept of bullying and its long-term effects, I could never tell anybody in this room that. So if you ask me, hey, could we do something for a bullying presentation, I would say sure, but let's get some partnerships going first. We'd like to bring in human services representatives. We'll maybe have a first meeting with police officers talking about it. We would do a full engagement because we want the kids to be sharing what's actually going on in their lives, what's going on in the community. And then we would probably in session 2 bring in human services to talk about the long-term effects, stress, work performance deterioration, and everything else that can happen. In addition, perhaps we bring in some school officials and school counselors that could also be there so that they'd have somebody to go to that they feel safe talking to after the presentation. So we have to know all of the demographics and who has that expertise so we can bring them in. And that's a great way of making sure that we round out those presentations and those training sessions to look for a long-term approach, not just, all right, this is what it looks like. We all know what bullying looks like. I'm guessing, including myself, everybody in this room had been bullied at some point in your life. We know what it looks like, we know what it feels like. Our goal is to make sure that once we resolve the issues that are going on, you have a long-term, satisfied and happy person that can be productive members of our society. So when we talk about partnerships, we can have police officers come out, and that's going to kind of, because that's what my background is, the focus of a lot of this. But this is a picture from our Citizens Police Academy. So we get called quite a bit to talk about how do we physically defend ourselves, how do we protect ourselves, if necessary. We can come out as police officers, we can do everything from professional communication, verbal de-escalation, conflict resolution strategies, all the way up as Sergeant Helby's demonstrating on how to actually punch a bag if we needed to. And yes, we can bring the bags even to the library. You want to have a good day and fun, we can bring those. And you can see the guy holding the bag there, he looks really happy, doesn't he there? He's like, yeah, this is great. But this is an example of our Citizens Police Academy. Out of all the Citizens Police Academies we've done, we've never gotten below a 10 for satisfaction on it. The interesting factor for me is the #1 complaint we have of our Citizens Academy is nobody can sleep the night after each session because they're so pumped and jacked up when they get home. They're so excited and happy. So if that's the worst complaint we get on it, I think we're doing pretty good. Sorry this picture got real grainy when I just made it big here, but this is the fire department. The fire department also does great jobs with different types of training sessions. So for example, our local fire department has a fire extinguisher safety program that they can use. It's a phenomenal resource that doesn't even, you don't even have to have live fire if you don't want it. It simulates it for you. It's a pretty neat program. Think about, everywhere we go, we have fire extinguishers hanging on the walls. How many of you have ever been trained on how to use it? Physically trained, not told, pull a pin. Yeah, just a few. This is something that you think about until you've actually ever done it. Do you really know how a fire extinguisher is going to work? Do you blast it right at the fire? Do you blanket the fire? How do you want to put that fire out? They can come out and they can do that training. And if you're going to train library staff, why not do citizen awareness on it? Because a lot of people have them in their kitchens and at home, but they've never really been trained on how to use it. So it's a service that you can do while you're training your staff, bring in outsiders and have the community also get trained right along with your staff. Get 2 for 1. They also do CPR training, which I think everybody should know, CPR training and the Heimlich maneuver and things about how to save somebody's life. And they also do defibrillator. We have those hanging on a lot of our walls. Again, why not open it up to our community members to be able to learn those things also? And here is an example of Public Works. Our Public Works department working with community. This was about the streetscape study we're talking about what streets are going to get closed, how's it going to look when it's done. Look at the turnout of people who are interested in this topic right here. They were only doing once a month meetings on our streetscape project. Again, a huge void that we should have filled at the time and recognized, what a great partnership we could have had with the Rhinelander Library to be able to do more of those meetings for people who couldn't attend at 6:30 at night. They could have come in at 11 in the morning. We could have done a couple sessions, 1 at 10 in the morning, 1 at 2 in the afternoon. And we would have had good turnout, I think, a lot of more people. And we also missed a lot, I think, as far as the kids. So also the youth. We look at things and look at the age right here, right? Okay. These are the people who are influencing the decisions that were going to be made for our downtown streetscape project. That project is going to last 40 or 50 years. What about having a bunch of high school students in there saying, this would be neat, that would be cool if we could introduce this, and then they're going to know they have ownership within their community, that they're valued and respected, so when they go off to college and they come back to Rhinelander, they can say, I was a part of that. I helped design this. And I always thought we should be looking at hitting every faction of our community, and the library is a great way of doing that. So, any questions on anything I've covered so far? We're small groups, so just yell it out if you have them. So far. At 7:30 this morning, I'm the president of Rotary, and I met with the high school Interact Club. It was 24 students that are part of our Rotary High School Club. Not a single one would ask me a question, so I beg you, beat them. At least beat them. Set the bar. They set it pretty low for you.
This is kind of off topic, but I saw that monster statue everywhere in Rhinelander. What is that?
All right. This is our bodeg.
Uh-huh.
You're new to this, Steph, yeah.
They have multiple big monsters statues.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Go have your
So the
picture
bodeg
taken.
was actually invented by Eugene Shepard in 1892, I believe, if I remember right. And what happened with Eugene was he's kind of a prankster. So he went out and he had a farm kind of around the edge of the city limits now, or what's now our city limits. And so he took a steer and he took the horns of the steer and he made these little lines up there, set these with 2x4s, kind of set it up and put ox fur around it, inside out, so he could paint it. And then what he did was went to the local taverns, told everybody, hey, I just saw this horrible beast out there, seeing this white bulldog, you know, and so literally the people of Rhinelander all grabbed pitchforks and torches and shotguns, and they all went out looking for one. Unfortunately, they couldn't find one, so they started going, I don't know if we trust you or believe you or not. You know, you had us last time. I don't know if I believe you anymore. So he finished up his fake hodag, made it large enough that his son could crawl in the back of it and actually manipulate it and growl. So he calls everybody, goes, I caught one, I have it in my barn. They all come over, they look, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. Yeah, there it is. So we had everybody, including the Smithsonian Museum, come to Rhinelander, checking this thing out. And he actually started traveling around the state to the state fair and everything with his son in the back of this wagon that would actually make the hodag and manipulate the hodag and panic everybody, kind of. Finally, he came clean and admitted it was a hodag, that it was his own mythical creature that he had created, but the legend is done.
They displayed it in very dark tints, and they also made it smell really, really
Yeah.
bad, so that they wouldn't get too close to it.
I always kind of figured the smell of the rotting flesh of the sheep
That could
probably
do
would
it.
do that.
That's right.
So yeah, that's the hodag, and that's why we are the home of the hodag right there. Since then, we've had, 2 years ago, we had Discovery Channel come to do a history presentation on it. We had Scooby-Doo came, and they did a Scooby-Doo hodag show. So yeah, it's kind of a very popular icon now.
And this year, you're seeing signs displayed around town, hodag for president.
My
Just
fear
like
is
a
it might
regular
win.
yard sale. Oh, that's not true.
Plus didn't you have claws stolen? That made the big
We
news
did,
too.
we did. Somebody
Wow.
stole 2 claws off one of our hodags, and thankfully they weren't intelligent criminals. So when one of our detectives went and knocked at the door, they didn't have the door latched, and the door actually opens up. He goes bang, bang, and the door opens, and he looks, and here they are sitting in the only thing that he was surprised, he's looking at, he's like, I don't think those are it, because, you know, when you see the size of the statue, it's about the size of our Chamber of Commerce. So these claws are about like that big, but they don't look that big. So here they are sitting there, he's like, is that a horn, or are those the claws over there? So we were able to recover them relatively quickly, but they couldn't put them back on until the weather turned. So thankfully we were able to get back.
I didn't even see that statue. I saw the little statues.
Oh, when you
They
come
were-
in on
they were-
Highway 8, you'll see it.
They were like big-ish, but not like that size.
Sure, yeah, come in on Highway 8 and you'll see it. And here's how important the hodag is to the city of Rhinelander. When I came there from the Beaver Dam Police Department and I had my interview, one of the first questions asked on my interview panel at the Police and Fire Commission was, tell us about the hodag. And then when they announced me as the chief of police, they swore me in, I walked up onto the city, up into the city council chambers. It was packed with media, and the first question gets raised, and I'm thinking, okay, what policies do you have? What are you going to do in your first 90 days? You know, what are your priorities for the police department? Was tell us what you know about the hodag. So that's how important it is to our citizens.
They sometimes pull over cars at the city limits, Steph, and they quiz the drivers.
Steph will take a tour. We'll go down. Okay, we'll go to the big giant Monument statue. It'll be awesome. You'll see everything you need to see in northern Wisconsin.
Now, think about it. Right there's a library presentation, because I bet you most of our high school kids couldn't even tell you about the hodag, where it comes from. All right, so let's start with an example presentation here that we created. This is kind of the middle portion of a presentation that we pulled out from bullying. I'm sure most of our communities have felt the pains of bullying. And what do people do when they're being bullied? They like to kind of crawl and hide away from society. And what better way to do that than in a movie theater, in a library, crawl into a good book, and just kind of distract yourself from all of the real world that's going around you. So we created a bullying program for the kids that, number one, are being bullied, to let them know if they don't seek the right help, what can happen. And second, for the bullies to understand that words do hurt us. So that's where we're going to start out, is words have power. You know, we hear sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We disagree with that. But what we ask is, starting right away at the presentation with that slide, we just pop up yes nor maybe. And kids in a group this size, we sit down and we facilitate a discussion now. What do you think about that? Do they hurt or do they not hurt? Is there a chord that I could strike every one of you by just saying something mean? By hitting that one sensitive thing that you're sensitive about in your life. And so we talk about that and we facilitate a really good discussion. This is where a lot of the kids would start coming out and they start telling us then, yeah, actually, so-and-so said this, and we all are passionate about 1, 2, 3 things in our lives that if somebody starts attacking it, you're gonna feel very, very exposed. You're gonna feel very sensitive about it. It's that kind of open nerve. So we go through our presentation, and our big thing is to get that discussion going, to get the kids to actually start talking and opening up. Because once we start recognizing every person as a human being, we start respecting them. We start feeling that value in them. So then we talk about empathy, and we describe what empathy is and what it isn't. We also make sure we define the difference between empathy and sympathy. Feeling, nobody really wants to be sympathized with. We don't want people to feel bad for us. We want them to understand where we are in our life and how their actions are having us react. So this is an example that we started talking about, and this is Kyra Pringle. She has a 2-year-old daughter who has chromosome 2p duplication syndrome. She's not expected to live long, but she made it to her 2nd birthday. And Kyra is extremely happy about that. She's very proud of her daughter for making it to that point, and they hope that Kyra's daughter will continue to live longer. So Kyra did exactly what every proud parent is. We take a picture, we put it on social media, and we say, here's my daughter's birthday. Here's the picture that she put out there. Very proud of her daughter, had her all dressed up, and made sure that she had her special date all recognized. And this is what she got for it. People started creating memes, these types of things out there. Think about her as a parent. This is something that's happening, hundreds of memes a day get put out there, well, millions, I'm sorry, that are being put out there, and we look at them and we start, we don't think about how is that going to make somebody feel. And if Kyra's daughter lives long enough to actually truly understand what's going on with these pictures, she's going to see that she's being compared to a monster. And how as a mom does this make her feel? These memes are being posted and created not only by high school aged kids that pick on others, but adults, people our age, the ones who should know better. The reason we have this on here is because we start out not just talking to the kids. We talk to the kids in one presentation, we talk to the parents in another presentation. And we want those parents to recognize our bullying behaviors that we see in our kids often start with us as the adults. And so if we can change ourselves and our attitudes and our belief system, perhaps we'll prevent this kind of stuff from happening and our kids will never do that. Maybe we can stop perpetuating what bullying actually is all about. And then we talk about how we all have a sense of belonging. We all want to be accepted into a group. There are a couple of human needs that we all have. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says, look, we need to have food and water, right? We know that for a fact. We have to have oxygen. If I sucked all the oxygen out of this room, if Chris could make this into a vacuum, suck all the oxygen out of the room, we would last maybe a minute and a half, right? We would not care about our jobs. We would not care about, things that, what level of self-esteem we have. We wouldn't care about what clothes we can buy, how much money we make. We would care about surviving that moment, right? Same goes as we don't have food, if we don't have water. Once you get above food, water, and knowing that you have a safe place to go rest your head at night, the next thing that we need, we absolutely have to have in life is a sense of belonging, to feel valued and respected. So as we move up that, we start looking at how do we work with some of the kids? How do kids feel when they don't get that value and respect? So this is Nicole Madison Love. When she was 13 years old, she was getting bullied pretty horribly at school. People were teasing her. As you can see, I think she's a very pretty girl, but a little bit of baby fat. So she was getting called fat by all these kids, saying that she wouldn't make sports teams because she was not, fit enough and things like that. So she turned to the isolation of her internet. She'd go home at night, she'd log into the internet and start trying to find friends off of social media who would not, condemn her for her appearance. And so she found somebody. And this boy started talking to her and making her feel very welcomed, very happy. She started feeling like somebody actually cared about her. And that boy asked her if he could meet her at some point. She was kind of a little bit reluctant at first. Finally, she decided that she wanted to meet him. So she went into town on her bicycle and met with the boy that she kind of became her boyfriend. Sadly, this is the boy that she was met. This boy and his girlfriend decided they wanted to kill somebody. They wanted to know what it felt like to take the life of another human being. So they started trolling the internet. They found her, befriended her, convinced her to meet with them in a parking lot, and they killed her. They took her life just to see what it would feel like. Now the question is, had she never been bullied in the first place, would she have ever had to turn to social media to try to find true friends? To actually start looking for somebody that would actually make her feel valued and respected. When we're on the internet, we have to recognize we don't know who's on that other screen. We don't know who they are, who are they pretending to be, what picture are they putting up. There are amazing cases that literally turn my stomach and make me want to vomit that have come right out of the state of Wisconsin about this kind of stuff. Part of it is killing a little girl like that. Other ones become other ways that they hurt and destroy kids' lives. When we talk about compassion, we talk about feeling of deep sorrow for another who is stricken by misfortune, accompanied by a strong desire to alleviate the suffering. Being there for another human being, trying to help them. The Dalai Lama has a great quote: compassion and tolerance are not a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength. And so, oftentimes I think in high school and middle school, if you're compassionate toward another person, people see that as a sign of weakness. We have to change that philosophy. We have to change that so that people realize this is actually a sign of strength. This is Megan Meyer. Megan Meyer was a 14-year-old girl. Megan was trying to date a boy in school. She had a major crush. Her best friend had a crush on the same boy. So what happened was her friend got mad, and of course now the friendship starts going. She starts with these rumors around school, starts making her feel like she's out of place. At the same time that happens, all of a sudden a boy named Josh comes online and introduces himself to her. They start hitting it off, and Josh starts really making good progress with making her feel good about herself. Feeling valued, feeling respected, feeling compassion for the things that are going on in school. When suddenly, after a few weeks, Josh turns on her and says, "Boy, I just heard some stuff that you did at school the other day. I don't even want to talk to you anymore. You're worthless. You should just go kill yourself." So, Megan, very upset, went home, started yelling at her mother. Her mother, who didn't understand what actually was going on in her life at the time, said, "That's it. You're not going to talk to me that way. You go up to your room. I don't want to hear from you again until dinner's made." Her mom makes dinner, calls for Megan to come down. Megan doesn't come down. She went up and she found her hanging in her bedroom. So, who do you think that is? Any guesses? That is Josh. That is also her best friend's mom. Her best friend's mom, who is trying to date the same boy, created that Facebook image of Josh, befriended her, and told her to go kill herself. She was very much an adult, and that's her right there. She convinced a 14-year-old girl to go up and hang herself in order to allow her daughter to be able to date the boy that she wanted. How far away from parents is bullying? You see it right there. They were in almost cahoots together. We talk about acceptance. This is Rebecca Sedgwick. Rebecca was 12 years old, and she started getting all these nasty messages online. I know this sounds like I'm really bashing Facebook. I'm just talking about some of the issues that there might be on social media. Okay, you work social media at your own level that you like it. So, but 15 girls all went to middle school with her, and over a boyfriend issue, again, they started attacking her on the internet. They said things like, "You should die. Why don't you go kill yourself?" Does this sound like something that could happen in your community or not? You know, when we were creating this Facebook presentation, it was because at one of our local schools, in an 8th grade class, the principal started reading me text messages that were being sent to the girls in that class. These are the exact quotes. I actually put the quotes in. I put text message quotes, bullying, and these words, and this case popped up. this is going on in Rhinelander. If it's going on in Rhinelander, it's happening in Monaco, Antigo, Merrill. It's going on in our communities. How much do we know about this? These kids don't talk about it. They're harboring all this, they're keeping it in there. We have to breath these conversations, say, no, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this. And there is somewhere safe where I can go where people care about me. So, she changed her screen name to That Dead Girl. Probably something that maybe some friends should recognize, okay, things aren't going real well for her. She was even physically attacked by one of the girls at school, and then she said after she was relentlessly terrorized that I'm jumping to a 12-year-old boy that she'd been communicating with. So one of her friends online, she said, I'm jumping. The 12-year-old boy didn't take too much consideration into it until they found her. She had climbed all the way up to the top and jumped off and plummeted to her death. When we read about bullying and say, no, bullying is not all that bad, you know, we've all been bullied. This is how isolated they are. Now, a lot of you in the room are a lot younger than I am. But when I was in school, we got bullied. Everyone in the room might be younger than me, you're right. So, when we were young and we got bullied in school, we would get a reprieve. At 3 o'clock the bell would ring, we'd hop on the bus or walk home or ride our bike home, and we didn't see those people. If they wanted to call our house, they risked having to talk to our parents and try to bully us right through our parents, and our parents probably weren't going to put up with that real well. So we had 12 hours, 16 hours off, and then it might start again the next day or people forgot about it. Where's the time off now? With social media now, with Instagram, with Facebook, with Kik, with, I can't even think of them. You want to help me with all of them? You're probably Snapchat. You can be bullied 24 hours a day. I mean, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you can still be getting the pings on your telephone if you have it in your bedroom. They don't get a chance to get that moment away. They don't get that chance to come back and sense their family and get refocused and recentered and say, no, there are good things in my life. They don't get a chance to go out and hike in the woods and forget everything bad that's been going on, because as soon as they get out there, their phone is still going off, or they come back and there's 100 messages of negative stuff. We have to be there for these kids to be able to give them this reprieve, to help them understand that their life is not that bad. There's an awesome article here talking about how much kids can take before being tormented. And Alex took several years before he finally said, I'm tired of this. Told his mom that. Now you think about this, at the time that he needed his parents the most, how often are we too busy to actually talk to our kids? How often do we say, it's just bullying, that's just kids being kids, you know, this will go on, this too shall pass, you know, a real simple saying that we all like to use. This is when our kids need us, we can't turn them back. So, like I said, this presentation, this is the last slide that I have on the bullying one. When we talk about this, take a centered approach. Have law enforcement come in and talk about some things that they've been seeing in the community. Have teachers and counselors come so that they can work it from an angle of, this is what we see in the school. And have parents there to understand, this is how important this topic is. We have to be addressing it right now. Because I know, growing up and hearing those things about bullying, until a kid told me, I was sitting in front of a kid, 13 years old, and her legs were sliced all the way up and down on both sides, and she also up in her armpits. She was cut a cutter. And cutters try to physically manifest the pain that they're feeling inside so that they can at least see it. And as weird as that might sound to a lot of us, as you sit and talk to somebody like that, they start to make a lot of sense. And she's the one that said, when do I get a timeout? When do I get a break? Take a look at my phone. Look at my phone blows up at night. I don't get a break from this. And that's what these kids are enduring right now. So we have to make sure parents understand that, so that parents can then know, if you're getting bullied at school, if you're having a hard time at school, don't have these electronics in the bedroom at night. Have time-free zones. Dinner, let's sit down as a family. Whoa, concept, I'm sorry if I offended anybody with that, but sit down as a family at the dinner table and put the phones away for a little while. At least you get a half an hour to spend time with your family. You know, to get away and realize, I am valued. I am going to be something important in life. When it comes bedtime, charge the phones, charge the iPads, charge all your technology out in a different room. So they're not saying they're tempted to look up things on their telephone at nighttime. Again, another 8 hours of solid sleep. We all know lack of sleep causes us to start thinking catastrophically, like everything's in the worst way. We need to make sure that we're teaching that to our kids as well. So that's kind of the bullying thing. Yes?
So, are there things set in place already for like our school districts and our police departments to be monitoring Facebook and stuff? Or are you guys only dependent on people coming to you?
People coming to us. There isn't, the only type of social media trolling that I know that's out there by law enforcement would be for terrorist activity. So we don't go out looking to see our kids being mean to other kids, or, you know, what do you think of the Rhinelander Police Department, you know, that kind of stuff. We just look at when it comes in front of us and we have to deal with it case by case, which is not enough. I mean, when you look at, you know, this is bullying. Another great topic, sexting. Connecticut, I was just reading an article this weekend on MSN, sexting, Connecticut State Patrol I guess they investigated over 50 cases a month of sexting. And we're not talking about one individual kid with one individual kid. I'm talking about where they create digital media vaults, and they compete to see how many images they can get of other girls in their school or other boys in their school in competition. And then once they hit the top, they release it to the whole school so everybody sees the pictures. And so they build this trust with these people. Now again, that was an awesome article. Really, the author laid it out so well. What happens when your 16-year-old daughter comes home and says, somebody convinced me to take naked pictures of me in the bedroom? You know, we fall back on this thought of when I was a kid, I would have had to have snuck out out of the house. I'd have had to sneak up into either somebody's car or a bicycle. I'd had to ride all the way over to somebody's house. That person would have had to sneak out of the house, and then they would have actually physically had to try to show me what they wanted to show me. And I wouldn't have had any way of keeping that image. Now, in the comfort of your own home, the privacy of your own bedroom, you can feel like it's you and just one other individual who truly loves you, who truly cares about you, and suddenly, the next thing you know, it's all over the internet. That person comes to you and they tell you, your son, your daughter comes to you and says, hey, this just happened. What's our first reaction as a parent? How could you be so stupid? What were you thinking? When they're feeling the most isolated from all of their friends and shunned at school, we as parents typically do the same thing. So the suicide rates among youngsters are actually skyrocketing based off of the sexting that's happening. The Attorney General takes this extremely seriously. Attorney General Schimmel. This is a website that's out there, doj.state.wit.us, DCI ICAC, that's the Internet Crimes Against Children, and then resources and materials. If you go to that website, or if you even Google the Attorney General's office, what you're going to find is this website right here, and they have resources and materials, awesome things and tips for parents, for teachers, and for kids alike. And you can also look at child sex trafficking brochures, safety guides for Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. These guys are really neat. They actually show you step by step how to go on your Facebook page, your Instagram page, and privatize everything, and the recommended standing of each of those areas in little brochures that can be easily handed out. So you click on it and it'll tell you, all right, here's where your privacy settings are. Here's how to set your privacy settings so only your friends see things, or only friends of friends see things. You can limit how many people are going to see you when you're actually looking at the internet. If you've ever wondered, okay, how do I look at somebody else's social media page without people knowing that it was me looking at it? You can find the setting to click so that you're anonymously looking at stuff. So all of these different things are out there that you can help, so you yourself can give a presentation to the kids on how to protect themselves on the internet.
There is a handout in your packets about this because on Monday, the Division for Libraries posted to their blog about this resource. I picked it up last night and made the handout for you today. So that page is on the back of that handout, and you can easily find your way to the website. I didn't have enough time to fully explore all of those things, but it really looked worthwhile.
Yeah, it is. It is. And just having those handouts for internet safety, like I said, for Facebook safety, for Instagram. Right here, they have a whole, it's almost a 17-minute video on, let's kick around some thoughts on this kick. You know, where they actually talk about what the kick program is. And they do that with different things like Snapchat, Kick, and all the other things. And some of us sit in this room and go, I've never, what is Kick again? I've never heard of that before. This kind of outlines all of the different social media platforms that the kids are using right now and things that you should know about it so that you can talk to them about some of the safety things.
And the podcast feature is new, and the links to the little brochures that Mike was talking about, those would be something you could put out at your desk, in your brochure rack. Certainly might want to consider to hand out at whatever events you eventually plan.
Any questions on any of this stuff that's out there before we move into another section? So another example of presentation is computer and internet safety. Now often we think, all right, if we're going to talk about internet safety, we have to be talking about kids, right? Those are the ones that are going to get in trouble. Well, how about the adults that have social media? So let's just show you a little video because I'm guessing some of your library patrons are going to look just like these two.
Did it capture? Why did it? I put it on capture.
That's a pretty good monkey.
Good enough.
I don't think
Oh,
you
here,
can.
now, do it again. What does it say here? Take a photo snapshot, okay.
Their daughter bought them a computer, and they said, wow, you know, now that we got connected to the internet, let's send her a nice picture of us looking at the computer working on it. They're trying to take the picture right now.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad. Oh, wrinkles up there. Scratches like that.
Take a series of photos.
That's okay.
You can email these to selected media, but why want to take a picture? Take a photo.
Oh dear. God.
I did it before by accident.
You're like me, you do more things by accident than most people do on purpose.
Just don't want to give up a mistake. There,
How'd you do that?
I don't know, I'll try to do it for you. Where you are. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I'm just gonna learn too many things, you know, she's trying to do so much. And let's get, you wanna watch, I'll show you what I'd like you to watch. Morning, you must stop recording. Or trying to close. Hyperlink. Gee, I don't know what I'm recording, shucks.
Look at him thinking, oh yeah, maybe you're recording us.
You have lines in your forehead, too.
How many of you think that your library patrons, you have a handful that might look like this at home right now? There you go. So even we can relate to that. Yeah. So as they're looking at this, and they're trying to figure out, you can see him all of a sudden have that, maybe you just recorded us, you know? But think about this for a moment. These are the same people now that have just moved into the digital world, never having been out there. They are about to get bombarded by all kinds of cool people that are out there. Friends that are on Facebook, friends that are on Instagram. Neat little videos, 10-second videos of monkeys doing weird things and stuff like that. There's another bad part of the internet that they're going to find too, isn't there? They're going to set themselves up for internet, for email. They're not going to know how to set up privacy settings. They're not going to know how to set up a Facebook page. They're not going to know how to set up a Snapchat page. It's awesome that you could actually probably help them navigate that now from whatever experiences you had. So now these folks get the emails that they just won the Jamaican lottery, or I have this $1 million worth of gold here in Saudi Arabia and I need to hide it somewhere. Just send me $10,000 and I'll help you out. Or I'm a soldier just trying to get my way home. Help me out with that. We all look at that and go, who would really fall for any of this stuff, right? But what I can tell you is we've reached over 1 million complaints in 4 years, and it's increasing. 12% of complaints had social media aspects to it, and Wisconsin ranked 10 out of 50. 10 out of 50. Now, I love the Big Ten, trust me, but I don't want to be in the Big Ten in this one. I want us to be number 50, all right? Look at the losses. Nationwide, almost $1 billion. Wisconsin alone, $9,235,000 in 2014. In 1 year, $9 million worth of losses of people that had fallen victim to 3,231 complaints. And those are only the ones that were recorded into a clearinghouse. These are not the people who received this is the FBI, we found the child porn on your computer, and unless you talk to us or send us $10,000 right now, we're going to be coming there and putting you in prison for the rest of your life. And the people who say, I don't know what's on my computer, but I certainly don't want the FBI coming, so I'm going to send this. Or I certainly don't want the IRS coming and getting me, so I'm going to send that $5,000 that they're saying I'm due on back taxes, even though they would never do that. So, how do these things work? This is the Jamaican lottery scam. Jamaican lottery calls up, hey, great news, you won $2.5 million in a car in a lottery. Oh, I didn't sign up for a foreign lottery. No, you were automatically entered when you bought your new computer. Oh, wow, I had no idea. That's so cool. I didn't know that Microsoft did that. That Bill Gates, he's such a great guy. And then, the next thing you know, they are out thousands of dollars. Some of them have actually given up their entire nest egg, their whole retirement, to try to get that money, to try to help what they thought was going to help their family. When that happens, they're there by themselves. They don't get that money given back to them. They are completely out. And here's the scary part. We think, okay, that's bad enough, right? In your golden years, when you're on a fixed income, you can not do a whole lot with your life anymore as far as working 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week. You now are alone, and suddenly, you go and contact your family and you say, I just lost everything. I have nothing left. What do you think the kids do to their elderly parents?
Take away the computer that they just got.
Yep. They get isolated and shunned. And amazingly, we are actually seeing a spike right now in suicides of elderly people. And a lot of it has to do with them getting scammed and feeling the sense of isolation. This morning, I apologize I wasn't able to be here, but I was at an IT meeting for elder abuse. This was one of the main topics that we were talking about in Oneida County, was the number of elder abuse complaints. I was listening this morning about a couple that boarded their elderly parents up into a bedroom, boarded the windows so that they couldn't actually even see out, so that they wouldn't have to deal with them anymore, and just left them out there. They'd feed them, and that was it. There's no time they had interaction with anybody in the outside room. This is actually happening. Now, this is a huge population that you have coming to the library. These are folks that love coming in and getting library books. Picture having updated, here's how to use Facebook safely. Here's how to use internet. Here's scams. Obviously, the police department, we come on, we do this. We have full presentations on it. But you guys could do some of this too. Here's how to use Snapchat. Or, let's change that a little bit to include parents and those grandparents. How do you Snapchat safely for you and your family? Let's bring the kids, the parents, and everybody in who right now say, no, you can't have Snapchat on your phone, I'm not going to let you. Have somebody that can go, hey, no, actually it can be a safe, entertaining way to communicate with your friends. if done properly. So there are ways that we can actually use our own people to facilitate this type of discussion. And you can bring in people from social services to talk about things that they know about going on with elder abuse. You can be bringing in police officers, we talk about the internet crimes against children. Think about the monthly programs that you could come up with for people who are over the age of 60, bringing them into the library. So our first presentation is really helping you bring in kids, bring in the youth, bring in the parents and the families to work together. Again, possibly monthly programs so that they can actually know that they have a core group of people that they can work with. And here now we're working into some of the elderly and letting them know they have a safe place to go in the library. Any questions on this one?
I just have one other thing to bring to your attention. In your packets, you will see on the right-hand side that there's a two-pager that, here, I'll hold one up, it's probably easier. We talked about this a little bit, those of us that were at lunch. It's this one. And the reason that I included this is that this came out of a senior newsletter that was designed for seniors who were having issues with alcohol and substance abuse. But yet, in this newsletter was this two-page article about cyberbullying and sexting and other online dangers. So many of our older patrons are seeing this kind of thing in their newsletters from their peers and are talking about this perhaps at the senior center. It may be a little extreme in terms of what we were talking about this morning, but it is nonetheless their perceived reality of what's going on out there. So I included this as an example. Okay? All right, keep going.
Any questions that popped up on this topic? All right, another topic that our senior citizens in Rhineland or in the Northwoods really had questions about was the police department. I was getting a lot of questions where I went to the Department of Aging and did some presentations, even out to the college, was residential security. Like I said, you have to be able to feel safe in your home. When you go away on vacation, if you're going to go away, to enjoy, and go to Italy for a month, or if you're a snowbird and you want to get out of here for a couple months over the winter time, how do I know my house is safe? So the presentation that we put together for that was safe at home. Recognizing how to feel safe at home. This actually kind of morphed from a one-day presentation, a little 2-hour presentation, into we started doing it almost monthly for a little while because there's so many different ways that you have to secure your house. We have windows, we have doors, we have different ways to come in. Where do we keep our money? Where should we keep weapons? How do we keep our weapons safe, not only from bad guys, but also from our own families? So we really started talking almost monthly about different ways of staying safe at home. So we started out talking about what is crime prevention and what's the definition of it. It's the anticipation, recognition, and appraisal of crime risk and the initiation of action to remove risk. We just need to take the look of what we know about risk analysis and just change it over to crime. So if you've ever had a baby in the house and the baby hits the toddler age, what are some of the things that you did around the house?
Put things up.
All right, set things higher so they can't get at them. Great.
Cover electrical outlets.
Excellent. Already, yeah, because they love sticking stuff in there. Yep. What else?
The stairgate things.
Stairgate, yep. And on the knobs, they have little stuff that they can't turn knobs anymore to escape, right? So you're gonna lock them in there and they can't get out. All we're doing is we're taking that same stuff. Look, you're anticipating possible problems. When we're boiling water, do we put it on the front when we have toddlers at home? It's in the back burner. We're anticipating what's gonna happen if my toddler gets to the staircase. Well, we recognize that they're probably going to fall down the steps. And we appraise that they're going to hurt themselves and you're going to have to now go to the emergency room. We don't want that, so we initiate action to remove or reduce that threat. Well, we kind of teach the class from a standpoint of turning you into criminals for a little while. So we say, okay, now take off your good person hat, let's put on our bad person hat. How would you break into your house? If you were a bad person, you wanted something inside your house. And a lot of times people think, well, first off, nobody knows what's in my house, but why would they want anything in my house? Well, let's think about this. 80% of heroin addicts started with prescription drug abuse. How did they find those drugs? because they recognize that elderly people have prescription drugs in their house for painkillers and things like that. So they go to those houses, they case the place out for a legitimate, what seems like a legitimate reason, and then they steal the drugs on a different day. There's seldom a day that goes by that this call is not coming in somewhere within our county. So we put that hat on and we say, okay, there are three things that a criminal needs in order to commit a crime. If you're a fireman, you would know the fire triangle. You need to have feet, fuel, heat, and oxygen to start a fire. Three things. You need to have ability, desire, and opportunity to commit a crime. In our country, they don't take away our ability. I would love it if I knew a criminal and I could do what they do in some of the other countries, just cut off a hand, we don't want to be able to steal him, right? We don't get that luxury here. We have that whole Constitution thing. Then we have the desire. Again, I can't take away your desire. I can make punishments so great that you might not want to do it, you might deter it a little bit. There's a whole class on criminology that kind of talks about the socioeconomic decisions of crime, but again, I can't impact that. If you want $1 million and you know where $1 million is, you might go steal it if you have that desire. The only thing I can take away is the opportunity to commit the crime. So, how do we get rid of the opportunity? Well, for example, let's go back to prescription drug abuse. If we know 70% of people are illegally obtaining their prescriptions by breaking into people's houses, how about if we take those prescription drugs and we put them, as soon as they're done being used, into prescription drop boxes, we do drug take-backs, we take away 84,000 pounds of drugs out of the state of Wisconsin a year, and suddenly people can't have the opportunity to get those anymore. We just ended a whole criminal act, a whole conspiracy issue. So, that's kind of our whole goal here. Now, this is what you're looking at here is a window, standard sliding window. Many of us have, how many of us have a standard sliding window or a patio door at your house? Okay, slide it open, close it. How do we secure a patio door? You know darn well that the lock sucks, right? Give me a credit card, I'm in 8 seconds.
I have a 2x4.
2x4, awesome. Is that the number one way, 2x4?
Piece of wood.
Yeah. And if I come up on the outside of your door and I bang the base of your door, what's going to happen to the 2x4? Pops out. The dowel will go rolling across the front. Yours won't? Yours is wedged in there? All right, good. So yours is a little bit better. What happens if I take a coat hanger, jimmy it around, grab it, and lift it, will it fall out that way?
It's like, it's enclosed on the end of it. I just stick it inside and down.
All right, good. Good, all right. So we all now know how to get into our So here's another option for you. I'm telling you, this could void a warranty, so you know, but the same barrel bolt that's in the bathrooms, you know, we always see them in bathroom stalls. If you don't want a big 2x4 sitting in there, you don't want to have to bend over to pick it up. Now that's the big thing that I see with elderly people, is reaching down trying to pick that 2x4 up. So what do if they have to let a dog out every day? Obviously, if it's standing in the corner, I'm not going to bend over and pick that up. It hurts to do that. So you put one of these latches on your door. You can put it upright, or you can put it into the side. And what happens is, drill a hole right here. I can now slide that barrel bolt up, lock it into place, and I know this door is not going to slide. Very, very simple fix. You can do that on every sliding window. And a lot of us want to be able to leave a little bit of window open during the day so we can get a little bit of air in. And as soon as you leave a patio door like this, or a sliding door, or a sliding window open, well, obviously I can slide the whole window up, take your screen out, walk in your house, do whatever I want, put the screen back in, you'll never know I was there. So you drill another hole, maybe 6 to 8 inches down, and then I lock this in place in that location. Once I do that again, I just created a locked window. Nobody's going to be able to get in and remove that window. The other cool thing about it is, if you know how to work patio doors, this is going to prevent me from lifting that window and taking it out. It actually locks it in place. So for literally, I think last time I checked, they were like 79 cents at Menards. Not them, I don't want to recommend a business or anything, but think about it, for that price, I just protected your house against somebody from walking in. So this is stuff that we can share. If you wanted to have a monthly, again, presentation on people saying, Here's how to resolve or how to do residential security. Here's how to feel safe at home. This isn't only a police thing. This can be fire coming and talking about where's the best place to have a fire extinguisher, how to actually use that fire extinguisher. You can talk about CPR in your home and how to make sure that all of your family members know CPR so something happens to you, especially as we advance in age. Or if we're choking on a chicken over, Christmas or something, that somebody can actually save us and not have to warn us every year that Christmas comes around. These are all things that we can talk about to say, here's how to stay safe at home physically, internet-wise, and healthy. And then you start bringing public works in and they can talk about the safest way of actually shoveling. Believe it or not, what are the number one ways that people have heart attacks in the wintertime? Oh, it's shoveling their snow. So now we go out and we start talking about the different types of things that you can use to shovel and plow off, when you put salt down, when does salt activate on the driveway. That's all stuff that a public works people can come in and actually do some training on too. So the big thing about this presentation, as you're seeing, is I'm trying to talk about how to bring in as many community partners as we can, and how to create long-term programs to let people say, I want to go to the library, this is a really neat thing. And the awesome part for me, what I get out of this, would be a sense of community. Each of us have our own communities that we're coming from. And the library should be one of those focal points for that sense of community where people can come in, see each other, and I don't know if the grants can cover it, but have a little bit of donuts and coffee. Gosh, I love donuts. I'm a cop. But you invite us in, and even just having a little bit of that, where camaraderie, fellowship, monthly training program. Think again about elderly people who feel isolated, who don't have a lot of that. They be able to come somewhere and they're going to come to your library for it. So some key points. How do we create that effective presentation? Begin with the end in mind. What is the number one thing we want out of our program? What do we want to see? Do we want to see somebody safer in their house? Do we want to see safe internet activity? Do we want to work with the youth and try to engage them and make sure that they understand the pros, or the ways to avoid bullying and how to actually find other outlets that are positive in their life so that they don't just dwell on the negative things? What are your goals that you want? What length? Do you want this to be a monthly thing? Do you want to do a blast where it's like one just session? Do you want to do a 3 nights in 1 week and then you move to the next thing, the next topic the next time? You have to figure out exactly how you want to lay this out. And there's where, again, what's the end looking like? If part of it is to create a sense of community, a feeling of well-being and fellowship, you might want to do a monthly presentation where people get to know a lot more about each other. They look forward to that. They can't wait till they can see each other again. And you get a really cool sense in those classes. And then what engagement do you want with the learners? Like I said, 7:30 this morning, I even brought 2 boxes of donuts. I couldn't get a question out of those kids. At least I got to ask about the hodag here. They didn't ask anything. And I had cool stuff about Rotary that I told them, and there's still no question. And then concentrate on your core message. Always stay focused on your core message so that you say, if this is what we want out of the class, bring it back and talk about that. And that's going to keep you focused through all so that you know what your mission is. And remain focused on your audience. Instruction, classes, they're never about you. They're about the group that's in front of you. What do you want them to walk away with? If you look at it from that standpoint, they're going to understand that you're there for them. And they're going to engage with you a lot more. So some of the collaborative monthly trainings that I was thinking about as I was kind of kicking around in my head, what could we work on, what could we do? Working with your local law enforcement, fire, and EMS to conduct a monthly training session. Internet safety program, fire department could cover some CPR. You look at, like I was just saying, all the different safety aspects of just being safe in your home. Do you want to do that just for a certain age group, or do you want to do that for the whole population? Now again, do you want to invite 16, 17, and 18-year-old kids in and talk to them about how to burglarize a house? Probably not. I'm teaching you again how to be a criminal because I trust you guys. You're not going to go home and break into anybody's houses tonight. So you want to make sure that you're talking to the appropriate audience with the right stuff. Meet with local advocacy groups to conduct monthly meetings. Our Human Service Center, working with the mentally ill, them and the National Alliance for Mental Illness, having them come in and talk about the prevalence of it, when we realize that 20% of society has mental illness, 1 in 5 people are living with mental illness, either diagnosed or undiagnosed right now. And I believe it's probably even higher than that. And I see a couple of you counting right now. Oh, I'm number 5, that's not good. So, having them come in and say, okay, it's not the stigma that should be attached to mental illness. I mean, when we hear, and it drives me nuts, that a newspaper puts in a mentally ill person did whatever, automatically we're creating this fear-mongering going on. Doesn't matter, we deal with the behavior. The mental illness should not be attached to the stigma anymore because people are afraid to go out and get the medication they need. They're afraid to consult with family members. When family members hear that, they start shunning them. It's not right. We need to be opening our minds to that. And every chance that we can to have those kind of meetings and making people realize that we're welcome and we're all individual and unique, that's important for us to be doing. The YMCA is a huge avenue for all types of physical things, but if you look at what they are, they're about mind, body, and spirit. They have awesome programs. I'm on the YMCA board of directors. We have phenomenal programs at the Rhinelander Y for physical and spiritual well-being. We don't always work the best in the mind. So what about a partnership with the library that might be able to bring some of the mind aspects, where either people come over to the Y for these types of trainings, or vice versa, or we go back and forth and we do some mentoring. And the other thing I was saying is financial institutions. They can do monthly training. You know, on the way down here, listening to NPR, they had somebody talking on financial well-being, and the number of calls that were coming in from kids who were either just graduated from high school, in college, first, second year in college, talking about how do I get rid of my financial debt? What's the best way? Do I pay down my loans right now, my student loans, or should I try to save a nest egg for the house? Do I want to pay my car payment right away, or do I want to try to wait? Those questions that were coming in, what a great way to have financial institutions come in, and you could be doing training that would work for every age group, from college age all the way through to senior citizens. We're still trying, I'm sure, struggling on fixed income. So you could have monthly trainings and have somebody come in that would actually care about, enough about the library and the community that would donate their time for an hour to come in for questions and answers with people.
I'm gonna throw in there the health department.
Excellent.
Right now, Oneida, Violet, and Forest counties are working on their 5-year plan in the health department, and we were invited to participate in that, and you're amazed. You're sitting at this table, and that health department, as well as like the police department, they have our same mission and our same goals, And it was really rewarding to be able to go to those meetings and say, hey, we will partner with you. We want to promote these healthy lifestyles just as much as you do. And I think a lot of the health department people were kind of like, whoa, we never even thought about the library. So I encourage everybody to talk to them as well.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's a ton of different things that are already kind of kicking around in your mind and that you're thinking about as possibilities right now.
It's obvious that you've done a lot of community programming and you have presentations in the can, so to speak. Is that generally the case with local police departments and sheriff's departments, or is it really dependent upon the individuals in those departments and where their talents lie?
It really, every department has its own personality, which is usually kind of a reflection of the chief's personality, I guess. So, our department, we're very open to doing this kind of stuff. I would assume, knowing that the chiefs of almost all the departments in here, I think would be the same way.
Okay, because we represent libraries in 7 counties. I think we talked about that, yeah. And so I was wondering what the likelihood was that if they made that reach out to their local police or their local sheriff's department, that they would find the same availability of presentations.
I think that they would without a problem. The department in today's day and age in our country that's not reaching out to the community, to be there for the community and to expand, the topic, just the fact that we're called law enforcement kind of actually rubs me a little bit wrong, because automatically that means I'm only here to enforce laws.
Sure.
That's the hammer. there is a whole lot that needs to be done before I get to the hammer, you know, and until police agencies and sheriff's agencies in our country recognize that we need to be doing other things, we're gonna continue this national climate and this national discussion. So I'm hoping, you know, if they're actually paying attention to what's going on in Washington DC, if they're actually reading the 21 guiding principles that came out for law enforcement agencies, they're recognizing if they don't have these presentations in the can, they should be making them.
Okay, so let me take that one step further. When I was planning this afternoon program, I immediately thought of Mike because I worked with him when I was at the library in Rhinelander, and I knew that he had made presentations to different community groups. Mike was polite enough to remind me that there was a protocol within the law enforcement family, and he suggested that I contact the Marathon County Sheriff's Office and the Wausau Police Department to indicate that we had this idea and that I wanted to invite Mike, and that I just wanted to make sure that since this was being held in Wausau, that they didn't have something that they wanted to share. In other words, I was making sure it was okay that he was coming and stepping on their turf, okay? And there was no problem with that. In fact, they really did not indicate an over-eagerness to preempt my plans.
Sure.
All right, let's just say that, okay? So as you're talking to your local law enforcement agencies, be aware that if there's a local police department and there's a sheriff's department, that you should be talking, I think, to both of them and seeing how they can interact. And if they're not having any luck locally, are you available to travel?
If they're not having luck, I'm willing to share anything that we have.
Okay.
So, you know, obviously, if you go back and you say, geez, this bullying thing is that really kind of touched my heart today, and I want to have something like that go on in our library, and you reach out and they say, no, we don't have anything like that, I'd be happy to talk to anybody that's out there.
Okay.
You know, and again, as you're seeing, these aren't pictures that I'm making myself, these aren't stories that we're making ourselves. So we had this discussion when Chris had wanted to copy a lot of this and put it in your manuals, and I'm like, well, I never got copyright permission for any of this stuff. I don't profit off of it.
He was thinking like a librarian.
But, you know, I'm like, I didn't want anything going out there and getting anybody in
Yeah.
trouble, including myself. So, you know, that would be the one thing caveat that I'd have with sharing it, is just to let people know, hey, look, this could be copyrighted material. I don't pretend to know all the copyright laws, but I'd be happy to share anything that I have. If they're working within their libraries, not profiting off of it, but making their community better.
Educational use.
Probably partner with the librarian to figure that copyright.
Yeah, there you go, that's right, that's right.
We had the Forest County Drug Task Force come in and give a presentation for the public on prescription drug abuse.
Excellent.
And they actually, they were really excited to offer it, and they had people from Lake County come in with them. And I highly recommend that. It was a really good program, and we didn't have that big of a crowd. I wanted a bigger crowd, but those of us that in attendance, we really learned a lot, you know, and it's really important for the citizens to hear that stuff. So, and through the library makes it even better, so.
I agree, and our drug officer, I know, goes all over the county doing that kind of training as well, so if you'd be happy to go to the library to do something like that. With the weird stuff that's coming out now, I mean, carfentanil, if you haven't researched that stuff, Ohio is being devastated by it right now. It's an elephant tranquilizer. It knocks out an elephant, literally the size, the amount of the size of the top of a needlehead. Okay, so you can see how small that would be, is enough to overtake your entire body that you lose all function. And we all know Narcan is what we use to stop and bring somebody out of a heroin overdose. Carfentanil, it takes 15 hits of Narcan to bring somebody out of that, to save their life. That's how dangerous this stuff is. I'm beyond that, I don't understand that at all. So yeah, to recognize some of the stuff that's out there, I think is very important to keep that dialogue open. And again, that's a class that can be good for all the way from kids all the way up to adults and elderly.
The other thing that I did not want to lose track of, and if I'm preempting,
No,
we're on that
yeah,
slide anyway,
yeah.
good, okay. I wasn't remembering what was coming next, but I didn't want to lose track of the discussion that you and I had about and I'm gonna use the term officer-friendly conversations, one-on-one and opportunities where there might be an officer or someone from social services or whatever just in the library on a regular basis as a safe place that people knew that they could come in and talk. And this would be people of all ages. Do you want to elaborate on that a
Sure.
little bit more?
You know,
Yeah.
there's officer-friendly programs. There is, I think this is coming up on like the 5-year anniversary of Coffee with a Cop. Has anybody ever heard of Coffee with a Cop? It was actually created in, I think, Halifax, Virginia. They were having such a polarization between their police department and the community that they decided, what if we start going out into the businesses and started actually saying, here's where a police officer is going to be drinking coffee on a particular day. If you want to have coffee with the cop, ask them some questions, go there. This is where they're going to be standing. And kind of turned into something very popular where coffee shops are now donating levels of coffee, like Dunkin' Donuts will give certain amounts of coffee, or other coffee shops. And the officers go there, not for the free coffee, but the community gets the free coffee. And they can ask the officers what's going on, what's happening in the community, what drugs are we seeing in the community, what crimes are we seeing in the community. And it's amazing how much it's opened up dialogue between police departments and communities to be able to have these free discussions. Because again, sitting in this room, many of you are going, I got a question, but I ain't asking it right now. You know, if you're standing there and we were all literally just standing around having coffee, you're going to be more willing to talk about it, and you see the officer as a human being that actually drinks coffee, you know, or eats a donut or something. So it's I think it's something that's important for us to look at that kind of stuff. So that'd be a good avenue to just say, look, for the cost of a pot of coffee, we're going to invite officers over, and this is the day that an officer will be here, and you can ask them anything you want. I mean, my car has this, is this legal, you know? I saw somebody in front of my house the other day, I didn't want to call it in because I don't want to call you guys. Should I call if I see that again, you know? My neighbor seems to be having all of these cars stopping for just a few seconds and then they leave. I don't understand what's going on in my neighborhood. Those discussions often happen just over a cup of coffee like that, so that's kind of that officer-friendly type of program.
And particularly with the youth, who may be seeking sanctuary in your library if they are being bullied or otherwise just having a rough time of it socially just at that particular moment. And I don't know, just creating opportunities for mentoring and conversation and feeling safer.
You need to bring coffee to your high schoolers.
Coffee to the high schoolers?
Yeah, oh yeah, that'll get them up.
Yeah.
Once this morning, yeah.
I thought sugared up donuts would work.
I know, I taught high school for 6 years and they would all be like,
Coffee at the
don't
library.
talk to you before 9 o'clock.
See, my problem is, I don't drink coffee, I drink water. I'm always afraid coffee will stunt my growth, so.
My grandmother told me that too, and look how tall I am.
What questions do you have?
I got one about, you know, not giving away my age, but 55 and over, you start getting phone calls, a lot of phone calls. You know, I just hang up. Should I be reporting some of those?
You know, I used to tell
Listening
people.
and reporting what's
I
going
used
on?
to tell people all the time, give us a call, we want to know what's going on. And it got to the point where our lobbyists, our front people in the front lobbies are going, please don't tell people that. You're getting 500 of these a day, you know. So I still like to know about it. You know, if the IRS scam is starting to peak, I like to know about it because when I'm out in the community talking to people, I say, hey, just so you know, the IRS scam is on the rise right now. It's really hitting. Look for the UK phone number because that's where it's coming from. So there's a lot of stuff that we do still like to know about that we can share with the community when it's going on.
That's really good to know because that happened to my mom and she, like I got home that night from work from here and she's nearly in tears because the IRS had called her and said that she owed back taxes. And I said, Mom, I did your taxes with you. That's nothing. It's a scam. I heard about it. But you know, she's older. She's in her 70s. She doesn't necessarily listen to the radio or watch a lot of, television. So it's good to know that, she can come to the library and hear these are the scams that are happening or this is what's going on or whatever.
And you can tell her the IRS never communicates over the telephone.
That's what I told
Only
her.
in writing.
I told her that. I said,
Yeah.
they will never call you.
Yeah.
So she was very relieved after that, but it was so, it broke my heart to see my mom nearly in tears over this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was hard.
Well, and the more we get that message out, when I see this $9 million, if I thought that $9 million in the state of Wisconsin was going to people who are really needing that money, I'm okay with that. We've done some things through the police department where we've tried calling some of these numbers back. People have kind of baited them. I would never recommend you do that because you're going to make them mad. They're going to try to figure out another way to come after you. But people have done that, and then they call us and say, just so you know, they're supposed to call back at 6 o'clock tonight. Can you have an officer on? So our officers will go on. And we even had one officer, because the gentleman that called us didn't have his teeth, and we talked to him. Our officer's trying to talk right to the phone. And as he's going through this, he's listening. He can hear this call center going on in the background with all the noise. I mean, he can hear the other people talking. And he can hear people talking in Arabic, you know, not in our language. So he finally said, he got mad, the officer got mad, because this guy starts really pushing him. And finally he goes, listen, I'm a police officer. This is the Rhinelander Police Department. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hunt you down. I'm going to find you. And this guy's like, you come find me. And all of a sudden he starts yelling, you know, it's about Allah and all this other stuff. So I checked with the FBI. Believe it or not, you know where this money is getting funneled to? Terrorists. Terrorist call centers are calling us, taking our money and using it to fund terrorism. That was astounding to me.
One of the things I'll tell you guys that happened at our library is we used to get a guy from Jamaica that would call us and ask for Pizza Hut's phone numbers in various towns, not in Wisconsin at all, but like in Florida or in Texas or in Arizona or in Louisiana. And we would constantly try to refer him to the library in that particular town. No, he wanted it right away. And we finally sort of figured out that he was probably scamming phone numbers and saying, hey, you know, I'm the Pizza Hut. I'm calling you to tell you that your credit card hasn't gone through. We need to do it. We need to run it again.
Sure.
So just, you know, be aware that that's, even for us as librarians, you know, you really want to help people. You don't really want to help these guys.
Yeah, we have to draw a line in the sand.
Right, yeah, no, yeah, so.
One of the other stories that we talked about when I visited you at the PD was the way that bullying presentation got started. You did make passing reference to the grade school. But what I found interesting was the way that you worked with the kids and the school personnel and the parents and brought all of that forward. Would you care to encapsulate
Sure.
that just for a minute?
Like I said earlier, when we talk about bullying, I'm a firm believer it doesn't just start with a kid. It's a learned behavior. You don't go to school and suddenly just become me, you know. I remember when I was going for my psychology classes, and the doctor was teaching us, he said, if you want to know what the human animal really looks like, what we look like before we're socialized, look at somebody who's 2 years old. The terrible two, as we call it. They give me its mind. If I don't like what you're doing, I'm going to punch you. That's actually a human animal before we become socialized. So that's really, from that point, we start teaching them how to actually get along in a civilized society. So bullying, you know, all of that behavior still falls back on the alpha wolf and everything else. No psychologist will ever say it's not a learned behavior. So where do they learn it from? You're either learning it at school or you're learning it from adults. So the first question that I asked the principal that met with me is, how do the parents react when you're calling them up saying, your child is bullying somebody? And the principal actually started crying, saying, well, they start yelling at me. And I'm like, well, then they're not learning it here. They're not learning it from the other students, they're learning it from that parent that's bullying you right now. And the principal kind of had a look of shock, you know, that, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about myself as being bullied right now. Yeah, a dawning moment of comprehension.
Right.
So the principal says, well, what are we going to do about this? You know, I said, let's start with the kids. Let's do a presentation with the kids, but I don't want it to be this type of a lecture where everybody sits there just staring at me going, I'm almost done, I don't want to get out of here. We want it to be open and in dialogue. So that's why you saw the slides. At the end of each of the slide presentations, we talk about people, we say, how many of you ever felt like this? Tell me about a time when you've been in this circumstance. You know, if you ask the question of, have you ever felt that way? Everybody's going, If you wait and you say, tell me about a time when you felt isolated. When your mind started wandering, you started thinking, geez, if I walked out in front of that truck, would it be better for the world? If I wait long enough, somebody here is going to go, yeah, I actually had that. And once one person admits it, several people are going to start talking about times that that's happened in their lives. So we tried to work that way through with the kids, and then once we have the kids open and learning and understanding this stuff, now it's time to actually fix the parents. We've worked with the kids, we fixed the kids, but now if they go home and the parents go, that's a bunch of BS, you don't have to tell that cop. Well, you just brought it all back. So instead we need to bring the parents in now and have them actually get that same talk and how we should treat each other and how we need to look at each other. And if we can change those parents, if we change those kids, hopefully we're going to change the entire dynamic of everybody and have a better, more productive society there, at least our community, if nothing else.
All right, anybody else before we start talking about what you might be doing in your own communities in the future? Any other questions? Mike's going to hang around.
How did you get the parents to come in? Was this at the school or?
It was at the school. Those presentations were at the school. So the school basically said, you need to come in, almost like a parent-teacher conference. The parents needed to come in and they needed a meeting. Of course, the simplest way would be to have 150 parents all coming into an auditorium. Again, you're not touching individuals at that point. You're not changing somebody. You have to literally, with something like that, you need to touch them in the heart in order to make them want to change their mind. And so we did small group facilitated discussions with them then too. And we're going to be doing it again this year as well.
I have one more. Another benefit that I see to working with the police department is that the benefit that the police department gets to understand where we're coming from as well. In that we get all kinds of people in our libraries, and that's something that I struggle with in Forest County is I don't know that they understand, because we like to promote our library as, a positive place, a safe, secure place, bring your kids, but then at the same time, we're having, we're calling the police because we have people that are on drugs at our computer stations, that they're mumbling to themselves, and so it's a juggling issue for us, where we want to promote this public library, but do the police understand at the same time to come help us with that issue? So to have a better relationship with the police in that regards, I think would be really beneficial, so.
I think it's really an important point to make is before you call us to say, hey, come deal with this problem, let's talk about problems that we're going to face.
Right.
And, when Chris was with our library, when we had Ed Hughes then and now with Virginia, we get a chance to talk quite a bit. I mean, Ed and Virginia were in Rotary with me, so we see each other once a month or once a week. But some of the dialogue, like when Ed comes and says, geez, I got this guy that I surfing porn. I'm like, well, simple. Shut off the computer then. Tell him get out of here. He's like, no, they have certain rights. That I'm like, the right to surf porn in a public library? How's that possible? Oh, okay. So it's like there's certain things that I don't, we don't understand. Because I'm like, I'd walk in there, I'd grab the guy with the scruff and be like, all right, nope, this is naughty. And so it's like talking and figuring out what is the best course of action and how do we not infringe upon people's rights, how do we make sure they still feel comfortable coming to the library and realizing there's not government interference with what they want to be looking at.
Yeah, because we've had, the police have said a few times, well, kick him out. It's a public building, I can't just kick him out, and, he can come back. So, it's a really interesting dynamic there, so.
And that's something to even set up, even for you guys, monthly meetings with staff or something like that, to say, here's what's been going on at the library. The coffee or the cop, just invite one on in and say, hey, come on over for a cup of coffee. We've had a few interesting things come up. We'd just like to know how to handle that in the future.
Stop in and talk to our reference department, because we do kick people out. We kick people out for up to a year. So, and that's written right in our policies, the way that we do it. And, we're we're all incredibly nice people, so it's really hard to
Yep.
kick someone out and say, you can't come back for a year. But we have the same problems, and I've told all of the other staff members, I said, if you can't wake somebody up, for heaven's sake, call the police. Police will stand around for 10 minutes and talk about it. And I've said to them too, if someone is minimally responsive, if you get just a grunt out of them, call the police and let them make the decision for you about whether or not this person needs, transport to the hospital or something else. And I said, I feel much safer. I don't have a nursing degree. I don't have any kind of public safety background. I want to keep myself and the people that I work with safe. So I really feel, and I always thank the police officers when they come because,
Yeah.
they're there to back us up when people get difficult. And we've had people who, sung on the way out, sworn on their way out, walked out just saying every vile word possible. And I said, you know what? Love and logic, as long as the feet are going in the right direction, I can't really care what the mouth is saying.
That is exactly what we always say.
So,
too.
yeah.
As long
So,
as you're
yeah.
doing what you're asking them to do, just let them keep doing it.
Yeah, and so, but do feel free, if you want to
Okay.
know, you can email me and I'm happy to share our
Okay.
policies with you. They're on our website, so you can kind of see what we do. And we try to be really proactive with people about reminding them, we're really sticklers about making sure you're not sleeping because we have people who have passed out or, we've had a couple of people where we weren't really sure, were they drunk or were they having they having a diabetic seizure, was something going on? And so we try really hard to be proactive with our people. So feel free, I'm happy to share them out.
Thank you.
I'm sure Ralph would have been too if he'd stayed. But because it is hard and you don't know.
Right.
So, and we deal, I kind of joke, like every year we get the same homeless people that come and spend all day at the library and they sort of know you got to keep your shoes on, you can't sleep, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then every summer we sort of get these people who show up for a couple of weeks and then disappear again, and we have to teach them, this is what you have to do in the library, this is what we expect of you. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
feel free.
Fairly early on, in my tenure as a children's librarian, we had an interesting individual who arrived at the library on a Tuesday morning and was very strange in his behaviors throughout the ensuing week, but it was odd enough to attract attention and perhaps a little worry, but not odd enough that the director that I worked under at the time felt that we needed to take any action. I'll cut the story short by saying that this individual had some serious issues in the men's room on the floor where the children's department was, and the children's department had decided she had had enough and called the police. And by this time it was maybe Thursday, maybe Friday, and what we found out is that the police department under Tony was looking for this individual all week because he had trashed a room at the Downtowner Motel over the weekend. And it got to be a standing joke, if you're looking for somebody, come to the library and see if he's here. So this cooperation works both ways.
When you see it on the news, this person's wanted, I always tell my husband and say, well, he's probably at the computer at the moment.